All right, let's dive in. Today we're heading to Spain.
Spain?
Yeah, the Alhambra Palace. You know Granada, those beautiful courtyards?
Oh, the ones with all the water features?
Exactly. We found this cool YouTube video about their water system, and it's amazing what those medieval engineers pulled off.
Oh, yeah. The Alhambra's water system is legendary.
It's not just about getting water to the palace, which is impressive enough considering it's way up on a hill, but they used it for everything. Fountains, baths, even a clock.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, the technology they had back then.
Right. So first things first, the Alhambra is perched high above the Darro River, right?
Yeah.
How high are we talking?
About 200 meters.
200 meters.
Think about it like carrying buckets of water up a skyscraper. That's basically what they had to do.
No way. So how did they do it? Did they have, like, a human chain passing buckets uphill?
Uh-huh. That'd be something to see. No, they got clever. They diverted the Darro River itself.
Diverted the river, like moved it.
Well, not moved it exactly, more like redirected it. 6 kilometers upstream.
6 kilometers? That's like crazy long. Longer than any plumbing system I can imagine.
They were serious about this project. They built this channel, called the Royal Canal, with a very precise slope to make sure the water flowed all the way downhill to the palace.
Wow, a 6-kilometer water slide. But building that must have been a huge project. How many people did they need to build that thing?
Oh, tons of people, for sure. A massive undertaking. But it was just the first step. Remember, they wanted fountains, baths, a water clock. All that needs good water pressure. The canal alone couldn't provide that.
Ah, that makes sense. Like trying to take a shower with a dribble of water, not going to work.
Exactly.
Okay, so how did they get more pressure? They didn't have electric pumps back then, did they?
Nope. But they knew their physics. They built a huge storage pool, even higher than the palace itself.
Higher than the palace, why?
Gravity. The higher the water is stored, the more potential energy it has, the more pressure it has when it's released.
Ah, so gravity was their pump. Clever. But hold on, how'd they get the water up to that pool in the first place?
They used a few things. A well for underground water, a water wheel powered by the river itself, and then, for the final push, good old-fashioned animal power.
Wow, a mix of old and new tech. Sustainable, even. But what about droughts? Did they have a backup plan if the river dried up?
Yep, they were planners. They anticipated droughts and had a backup water supply. Talk about thinking ahead.
So they had water flowing to the palace with good pressure. What did they do with it all? Besides the obvious, drinking and washing.
Well, there's the famous lion fountain. But it's not just any fountain. It's a giant 14th century water clock.
A water clock? Okay, I've heard of sundials, but a water clock? How does that even work?
Picture this. 12 lion statues around a fountain. Each hour, a different lion spouts water. It all works thanks to this system of holes, pipes, and a constant flow of water.
That's so cool. But what happened when the fountain filled up? Did they have someone scoop out the water every 12 hours?
You're picturing some poor guy with a bucket. Nope. They used a siphon to drain the fountain automatically.
A siphon? You mean like that thing you use to steal gas? I'm kidding. But really, how does the siphon work with a fountain?
Well, imagine a U-shaped tube. It uses the water's weight and air pressure to pull water over an obstacle, even if the end of the tube is lower than the water source.
So it's like reversing gravity?
In a way, yeah. As the fountain filled, the water in the siphon tube rose too. Once it hit the top, the water flowed down the other side, creating a vacuum that pulled the rest of the water with it.
So it basically emptied itself. Talk about low maintenance.
Right. And that's the theme here, using simple, natural principles to make things work automatically. But the lion fountain wasn't the only cool water feature.
Oh, there's more.
Let's talk about the thermal baths. Not just functional, but pure luxury.
Spa day, medieval style. Tell me they had mud masks back then.
Think bigger. Cold plunge pools, hot rooms with heated floors, steam rooms, all powered by the same water system.
Wow, living the good life. But how did they heat everything back then? No boilers or fancy thermostats?
True, but they had ingenuity. They heated water with a copper boiler and a good old wood fire.
So hot showers and fountains all over the bath complex. But what about the heated floors and steam rooms? Tiny fireplaces under the floor.
Oh, that would be dangerous. No, they used the steam from the boiler, pipes under the marble floors for radiant heating, and for the steam room. They channeled the steam up, let it escape through these beautifully carved star-shaped vents in the ceiling.
Star-shaped vents. Fancy. Were they just for looks, or did they do something?
Purposeful design. Those vents control the temperature and ventilation in the steam room. Yeah. Pretty impressive precision for centuries ago.
It's like they thought of everything. We've talked fountains, baths, a clock, but they used water for something else too, right? To cool the palace.
You got it. That's one of the coolest things about this whole system. Granada gets hot, especially in summer.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So they used evaporative cooling. You know how when you get out of a pool on a hot day, you feel cooler?
Yeah, because the water evaporates off your skin.
Exactly. That evaporation absorbs heat from the air. So they built water features throughout the palace, not just for beauty, but to cool things down naturally.
So a palace-sized evaporative cooler. Genius. It seems like they could solve anything with water. But wasn't there one more challenge? The soldiers' quarters were higher than the rest of the palace.
Yes, that was a tough one. They needed to raise water 6 meters vertically, and this time, no water wheels, no animals allowed.
6 meters straight up. No external power. Okay, now I'm really curious. What did they do? Build a water elevator?
Not quite an elevator, but just as impressive. They built a device that used the power of, get this, a whirlpool, plus air pressure and the weight difference between water and air bubbles.
A whirlpool. Sounds like a wild water park ride. But how does that lift water?
Physics. 2 containers, one higher than the other. Water flows from the top one to the bottom one through a pipe. Creates a whirlpool in the top container.
Okay, and then?
That whirlpool makes a low-pressure area in the center, sucks in air. The air mixes with the water flowing down, makes this bubbly mixture.
So, water and air bubbles.
Like a fizzy drink. This bubbly water is forced into a narrow pipe. Meanwhile, the heavier, pure water in the top container flows down a wider pipe.
Why different size pipes?
It's all about potential energy. It's the same in both pipes, but because the bubbly water is lighter, it can be pushed higher. Less weight on one side of a seesaw,
So they use the air bubbles to make the water lighter and rise higher? That's so smart.
Exactly. And it worked. That system raised the water level 6 meters, enough to reach the soldiers' quarters.
This whole water system is amazing. Every step of the way, thinking outside the box, using nature to solve problems.
Okay, listeners, time for you to chime in. We want to know, what do you think? What natural things has we overlooked?
What old tech can we bring back? Share your ideas.
Who knows? You might just start the next big thing.
So to everyone listening, I want to say this. Take a minute to look around. Appreciate the simple things. The wind, the rain, the sun.
Nature is full of amazing things.
Who knows what we could achieve if we opened our minds to the possibilities? Maybe the solutions we need have been right here all along. We just need to see them.
That's a great way to put it. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop learning from the past.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time for another adventure in knowledge.